Hey, this is Brandon Jackson, owner of Smile Labs here in Addison. I wanted to make this quick video, kind of giving people an insight of kind of what I'm going through with the owner or the property manager owners of Addison Salon Suite. Going back probably 6 months ago when we opened the location here in November, we've kind of had ongoing issues that were unaddressed over time. A lot of our issues had to do with the previous general manager of the company, a guy by Nathan. We were promised a whole lot of things when we moved in. Not a whole lot was actually follow through with. Everything from free rents up to 8 weeks when we moved in. We got 2 before they were asking us to start paying rent. Everything from us having internet, not having internet for 5 or 6 months of operating, or not having sufficient enough internet that worked. Our room did not have heat. We've been complaining since November for someone to fix the heat. We have not gotten any response to that up until less than 30 days ago. So basically our current situation that we are having is that once Nathan was fired almost a month and a half ago and replaced by the current manager on duty, which is Alec, they have basically told us that every deal that Nate made, they were basically going to renege on it. So when our room didn't have heat for 4 months, Nathan said, go buy a room heater and I'll get it approved and basically take it out your rent, which was an $80 heater. So that's what we did. When we didn't have internet for 3 or 4 months, basically Nathan said, well, go buy a router because the people on your side of the building are dealing with the same thing. So go buy a router extender and take it out your rent and I'll reimburse you for it. I'll get that approved. He comes back to us. We did that. That was $125. And then near the end, the last day Nathan was working, for whatever reason, he gets angry and he kind of goes through a little rampage on our room and he comes into our location and destroys the sign that we have actually on our window, which was a $150 sign. And so basically my issue that I have with Addison Salon and Suites is that once we had spoken to the owner after Nate's termination, we had basically let them know that everything or every issue that they have as far as the heat, the $80 for the heater, the $125 for the wireless router, the $150 for the sign, which would be a total of about $400. All of these things were either approved by the management of Addison Salon and told to us the reason why we did it, or the sign, no matter how you slice it up, Nathan was an employee of Addison Salon and Suites when he destroyed our personal property. So with that being said, Addison Salon and Suite is liable for my damages. And so that's where we're at. And so after about a month of dealing with this and negotiating who's going to pay for what, basically, they come to us and said the first total that they said we owed was $200. The second total they told us we owed as a week and a half ago was $150. Then Bijan, the owner of Addison Salon and Suite, comes into the location about a week and a half ago. And when I talked to him, he says basically the hell with everything that was told to me before because he's upset. And now that I owe $400 or else get out. And so basically, we leave and we don't hear anything else from them. This is on a Thursday. I believe it's the 10th. Yeah. So the 10th, on March the 10th, is the last time we hear about it. We come back as of last Wednesday, Thursday, which would be the 17th, I believe. And they had changed the locks on our suite with no notification. And so then when I go and address Alec, their manager, and ask why have our locks been changed or what's going on, they let us know that they sent us an email to get out in 3 days and they were going to change the locks. And I'm not sure who they've dealt with in the past. But basically what I've told them is I have been operating businesses, 10 plus different businesses over a 13-year career. And no lease on the planet does an email suffice as official documentation. And so what I told them specifically then is that what they needed to do, if they wanted to then serve me saying I'm defaulting on my lease, that they needed to print a piece of paper out and simply deliver it to us 10 steps down the hall. At that point, even trying to make a compromise, even trying to I got really irritated with talking about this because I spent a month and a half simply trying to explain to them that it's okay to want us out. It's okay to say that I owe something. However, for you to ask me for money, you're going to need to be able to show me documentation, explain to me how I owe you the amount that you're saying that I owe. And now if you do your calculations and I do my calculations and my calculations come out to about $100 and your calculation comes out to $400, then I need you to be able to prove to me how your calculations make sense and how my calculations are wrong. That's all I've ever said to them. Even then, after doing that a month, out of my own irritation of constantly dealing with this, I offered to pay them the full amount. So as of last week, I wrote them a check on the 17th for the $400 for the whole week's worth of rent before it was due, just so I would not have to talk about this anymore. As of last Thursday, Friday, all they had to do was say okay and cash the check. By the time I come here Friday, they have yet to give me a response, which was over 24 hours later, if that was acceptable or not, or if they still were going to throw my stuff out because I was defaulting on my lease. And so basically at that point, to protect my business, I took it the legal route. And I had a letter drafted up, which basically, in a legal standpoint, identified everything that they were doing, which was illegal. That's changing the locks without the proper documents, saying that I'm defaulting by sending me an email, which the lease says in everybody's lease that they have to give you a printed document and hand deliver it, or at least make it known to me, not send me an email. And with all this stuff being identified, what it said at the end of the day is that I was still open to compromise and being able to talk about the situation. But if you want to do stuff with me, or if you're going to go about this, you're going to have to handle this the correct way. You're going to have to handle this the legal way. You can't just get mad. You can't just decide whatever rules you want and just say, I don't like you anymore. Get out. I don't want to accept your money. Get out. You can't do that. And so with that being said, what he can do, according to his lease that he created, is that if he wants to make the lease null and void, that's his perfect right as the owner of the building. But for him to do that, according to our lease, he has to then hand me a letter that says he is terminating the lease, which removes all my financial obligations as the contract says. And with that being said, I have 30 days to then relocate my business. The other thing he can do, if I was actually in default of my lease, then he could serve me a letter and says, I have 3 days to bring the lease current or I have to get out. What you cannot do is you cannot say, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to change the locks. And when you come up here, I'm going to call the police on you and tell you to get out. And basically what we've walked into is that exact same thing happening today, which is the 21st of Monday. We finally got a response back after waiting almost 4 or 5 days to hear back anything from Addison Salon and Suites. We got a response back that basically said at 3:55 p.m. on the Monday the 21st, you have till 5:30, which would mean an hour and a half. You have an hour and a half to remove all your personal properties and get off the premises, or I'm going to have a locksmith come up there and rechange the locks. Since you changed the locks to get in your location, I'm going to have someone come up there and rechange the locks. And then I'm going to call the maintenance guy to come out there and put all of your stuff in front of the business. Yes. I'm going to have someone come out there, take all of your personal properties, over 10 grand worth of equipment, and put it out in front of the business. Because I don't feel like responding to your demand letter, requesting more information, requesting that if you want to do something, Bijan, that you have to do it the proper way. And so that was the response that we got. So when I arrived onto the premises about 5 p.m., I walked into a locksmith sitting in the front. I then, 5-10 minutes later, I walked into 2 police officers being called. And then minutes after that, I also walked into the maintenance van, which was about to remove my stuff. So after having a conversation with the police officer and stating everything that I've already told them for the last month, you can't do this. If you want to do this, you have to do the correct way. If your attorney is representing you, then your attorney can talk to my attorney and then the attorneys can fight it out. What's not going to happen is I'm not going to be required to pay money to an attorney to respond to you. And because you don't feel like responding, come pick my stuff up and remove it and put it into the street. So after the police officers come up there and reiterate everything that I said in my letter, everything that I verbally said to them, then after they leave, the police officer basically said, this lock that you removed, you have to add the lock back. They have to have access to their suite that they're contractually obligated to. And so once the police officer leaves, they wait about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And they come in with a freaking dolly to then remove my chairs because they had purchased the chairs according to my lease agreement. The only thing out of the chair, they were supposed to purchase the chairs. They were supposed to purchase the mirrors. They were supposed to, the shelves, everything in here. What they bought the chairs only. They bought the chairs only. So out of spite, to be petty, the owner, Bijan, orders Alec to walk into the room with the maintenance guy and remove all of the chairs. Did not care that we told them that we have 20 appointments tomorrow. Did not care. Walk in there, change the locks, and then remove the chairs. So what I politely tried to address to them is that this is all going back to what I started with. If you want to terminate the lease, you have to do it the proper way. But according to the lease, as part of my lease agreement, I get the chairs with me signing this contract. So because you're angry, you cannot come take the chairs back. You can take the chairs back if you want the chairs, but if you want the chairs, you have to terminate the lease. And if you terminate the lease, you have to give me hand documentation. And if you give me hand documentation, and then I have 30 days to then act on it and move the hell out. With all that being said, from a man that supposedly owns 15 of these and has done this long, he knows this is standard stuff. So either he's just doesn't care, or this is how he usually handles people, but the person that they usually deal with probably wasn't raised by an attorney who knows the law in and out. So with that being said, the situation that we're into as of 8 p.m. on a Monday afternoon, they have called the cops on us one time. Cops came out, told them everything that I told them. Then we had to call the cops on them 15, 20 minutes later because they were trying to steal our chairs that we're contractually obligated to. And with all that being said, here's my guess, is that I'm supposed to keep quiet about all of this so that all this can be kept in secret. So that when my stuff is thrown out or when we move into another location, this will be Addison Salon and Suite playing us as the people who defaulted on our lease and who wasn't paying rent. However, here's the funny part. Watch it. The part that they forgot, if you look at this, on the 17th, I wrote them a check for the full amount so that they could shut the hell up and not talk to me again about money. Why? Because here in Addison Salon Suite, it was never about the money. I told them that we make anywhere from $150 to $650 per hour that we service teeth whitening people. So if you're coming to us saying that we owe $400, that would be about 30 minutes, 2 clients in 30 minutes with us. So at that point, if we just no longer have to talk about this again, here's your check. What they decided to do is decline the check. What they decided to do was decline the check, act like they never got the check, act like they didn't want the check, but still wanted the money, but still we're in default of not paying money that they will not accept. And at that point, I told they're trying to extort us, but not really. So where we're at is my guess is that Bijan's going to come up here because he had to take an L. He lost. And he was angry on the phone. He tried to do everything in his power to be as petty as he can. The problem, though, is that you can't do what you want simply because you decided to sign the lease on the overall building. And I'm sorry. So my guess is that I come in here tomorrow, and if they don't touch my stuff, that would surprise me. If they don't rechange the locks again, that would surprise me. Because when they changed the locks again, they tried to deny us again of having access to our location. Then the police had to come back and tell them, you can't do that. So this is where we're at. This is my public representation of what happened so that no one plays victim on the back end. And at this point, I don't love it here. I was ready to go 3-4 months ago. The problem is I signed a year lease. So Bijan, Addison Salon Suites, if you want Smile Labs gone, like I told you in the letter, you're going to have to do it the correct way. Serve me documentation, terminate the lease, and we'll be gone in 30 days. Until then, if you change the locks, we will change them back because we're legally obligated to have access to our personal property. If you touch our personal property, then you're liable for the damages of our client base that still will come here because this is where we're doing business at. So that's where we are. It's Brandon Jackson with Smile Labs. Thank you.